Well, listen, I think it's an excellent question for a variety of reasons that probably have nothing to do with why you asked the question. First of all, the UFC is very known for setting fighters up on their first fight in the UFC, especially if they've had a tremendous amount of success in other organizations. Obviously, it's not across the board, but what can I think of? I mean, Ben Askren versus Robbie Lawler, probably a tough fight for him. Then they gave him Jorge Masvidal. Dana knows how to put people in the ring with people that don't play to their strengths. Eddie Alvarez, he had him fight Donald Cerrone, and Eddie's tough as hell, but Cerrone's twice his height, right? So it's a really tough first fight in the UFC. And now that we're talking about that, forget about the matching. Your first fight in the UFC is very overwhelming from all sources that I've heard. I remember when Jake Shields, who was a teammate of mine at the time, fought Martin Kampmann. And he lost that fight, basically. They gave him a split decision to keep the St. Pierre fight going, which is cool. I'm glad they did. But the idea is that it's very difficult in your first UFC fight to be at your best. And for Asakura, they gave him Mission Impossible, right? They gave him one of the most dominant champions in Pantoja, striker versus grappler matchup, and said, oh, go get him. And of course, it didn't work out. Well, go figure, I will tell you, Patricio Pitbull versus Yair Rodriguez looks like another one of those mismatches, right? Patricio's small, Yair Rodriguez is very long. So we're going to find out very quickly whether he can overcome that hurdle, especially during his first UFC fight. Now, you're talking about who's next for Asakura. Look, there's always been a lack of flyweights, and probably it's about, people, they're bigger, especially in the United States, Latin America and in Asia, there's a lot more of those sized people. So the boxing ranks are full of them. My friend recently, a double champ in Fierce Fighting Championship, David Kim, decided to go to flyweight because he realized, hey, I get 6-fight winning streak going in the pros here, which is his next fight. Then I'm going to be called to the UFC, and he's absolutely right. Remember when the Tough Show did a whole season of flyweights, all champions from other divisions, and if they won the tournament that year, they were going to get a shot at Demetrius Johnson. They did it because there was a lack of contenders. At the same time, Dana's always said too, there's always another guy, and there is always another guy. You just might not know who he is or whatnot. Asakura is a prime example of that. That's why they dragged him in from Risen or wherever he came from to fight Pantoja. But look, flyweights, it's been rough. It's been rough for a long time. I've talked about that with Humberto Gonzalez and Michael Carbajal, the first $1 million flyweight fight in boxing. But whoever Asakura fights next, we'll see if he's for real, or if he was the hype of Risen. We'll have to wait and see. Everybody, read my book, Warrior of the